Hey guys, so let's set the scene. You want rain, snow, falling leaves, whatever effect in your animation. It could be a variety of things. But in order to get it, you think, oh, I just have to animate it frame by frame. See, the problem is animating rain frame by frame is extremely tedious. And to get hundreds of drops, that'll take way too much time. So to save time, how about instead we just use particles? Okay, before I begin, this software is called Tahoma2d slash Opentoonz, depending on what version you get. I'm making this tutorial in Tahoma2d. I'm making this tutorial in the thought that you at least have some knowledge of how to like use the effects, how to draw stuff like that when I make this tutorial. So if you don't, I have some stuff in the description where you can learn about the software. And yeah, let's do this. So first off, let's go to our effects. You might have a separate tab, but I'm going to effects, and I have a FX schematic, and you can get yours by going to panels, and then going down to schematic, and then obtain you to the stage schematic. You want to switch that over down here on the bottom right to FX, and then you can dock it wherever. I already have one docked. And also go back to panels or windows if you're using Opentoonz. And then go down to effects editor, or you can just press Control K. And then you can drag it in wherever you want. I already have mine dragged in, and then you should have it all good. So next, I'm going to right click. I'm going to click Add Effects, go to Render, and we're going to go to Particles. And then we're going to go click on Particles right here. And now we have our particles right here and our node view. So if you go up to the top right and press this eye icon to render or to preview, and then you also have to come here to your timeline and make sure it's stretched out. It might be on frame 1, so you might want to stretch that out. You can see it play, and then if you play, as long as you have it rendered, boom! Look at that. We have a bunch of tiny dots coming down the screen. So I'm gonna do most of the basic parameters that you're gonna need most of the time. So one thing that is good to know is that you can come to the top right down here when you're on the particles in the effects settings and click on this help page right here, and it'll bring up a page in your web browser full of all the information you need for other effects that I won't touch on here, and that's good to know. So here I'm gonna go and start the search. So down here we have the controls for the box right here in the center and the width. So up here you'll see this box when you first make the particles, and this box is basically telling you this is where the particle is emitting from. So if you wanted to emit somewhere else, like let's say you wanted to emit over here, make sure you grab the center right here, and then you just move it. Then the particles will move, and when you play, boom, it's somewhere else. But what if you want it more spread out, like across the screen? So what you can do is grab one of these corners and just stretch it. And then I'll zoom back out. You can see it's starting to spread out. And then there we go. So next down here, we have one of the most important settings here, birth rate. So birth rate is every how many frames you set. This is how many particles will be generated. So if you have 10 right here, like we have, then every frame 10 new particles will be generated. And if you want that to be, let's say every 5 frames a new 10 particles will be generated, whatever number you have over here, go down to animation step and then put that number up. And we can come over here to starting frame, which is telling you what frame the actual generation will start. So next we have a new tab, birth parameters. So the first thing we have over here is speed, which is telling you how fast the particles um will go. And one thing that is important to know about a lot of effects, you'll see here two scroll bars. So you'll see like 1 and 2. So basically what these do is that it lets you have a bit of variation with the particles. So if you set this to the min speed, I'll call it min for this video, let's say 100, and then this, let's say 300, and if you play, you notice that, oh, it's probably way too high. Let's go back to like 40 and then 80. There, it's probably better. And what you'll notice is that, you may notice is that some particles are going faster than others if you look closely. This a more, and you'll see like some particles you may notice, it might be hard to tell, are going slower than others. Let's play this normally. See a couple here. And the variation will be in between these two numbers. So you have your min as 20 and your max as 150. Then the software will choose a value in between these, or it could be 20 or 150 and in between these. And then it'll choose and then not choose. Then that's how fast the particle will be. So it may choose for a random particle the speed to be 50 or the speed to be 100 because it's in between these two numbers. So that's good to know to get some variation like this. And that's just an overall important thing to remember with these particles. So, because sometimes you might, bring this up like what size or whatever, and think, oh wait, why are some of them really small and some of them really high? Well, it's because these are two different values to add variation for better particles. So I'm gonna set the speed to 0 and 0 for now. Next we have speed angle, which will basically change what angle speed will be at. So let's change this to 20. Let's change this to say 90 degrees. And if we play, the particles would go towards this way, or a 90-degree angle. So let's set this back to 0 and set this back to 0. Next we have size. You can change this up and down to change the size of your particles. Then we have mass, which will affect gravity. We'll touch on that in a second. We have the orientation, which is changing the rotation. Later on, there will be a separate rotation parameter in the animation panel that you can change, which will change like the direction the particles will go. This just changes the orientation of the actual image itself and not the direction of the particles or anything. So if you have like a line and you change this to 90 degrees, then the line will be horizontal, let's say, but it'll still be going down, if that makes sense. Here we have the trail, which if you turn that up, say 3, and play. Oh, forgot to change speed. I'll keep the speed down, 30. You'll notice that the particles will emit a trail, which can be very nice for doing some effects if you want. Let's turn this off. Trail to 0. Then lifetime is a very important thing. That will tell you how many frames a particle will last. So you can set it to however many, like if you only want a particle to last 30 frames, you can set the lifetime to 30, let's say, and then pay attention to this number right here. Play it on the 30th frame that it falls. It's probably not. It's probably got to be sooner. And then on the 10th frame that it's falling, you see they start to disappear. That can be really useful for some effects. Next, we're going to go over to environment. Gravity, it changes, where it will go. So if you change gravity to, let's say, 20, just general gravity, and it adds the actual mass. And then we'll change this to a 90. And then all of a sudden, everything will start gravitating towards there. And if we change the mass, and remember mass, if we come over here to mass and change this to 3, then you'll notice that it'll go faster. So that's really useful for some effects like that effect. Let me undo some of this. You'll notice that it's kind of like something sucking up some, let's say, leaves or whatever. I don't even know, but like dust. Looks like it's sucking up dust, which is really cool. So we'll turn mask stack to 1, go to environment, and then change this back to 0 and 0. Friction. So in the real world, when something moves, the friction will call. Sorry, the friction will cause it to slow down over time. So we change this to around, let's say 10, and then let's look at the particles. You notice over time they'll stop, and that's really good if you want to do some effects. Wind. Wind is like I guess you can say, it's hard to explain. It's like it'll change the direction of a particle, kind of like actual real life wind, and that can be good. And I know it looks like some of these effects seem to be doing the same thing, but the thing about this is you can combine some effects to do some pretty cool stuff. So next up we have scattering. So scattering kind of scatters everything around. So let's see here. Now we have go to horizontal. We can change it to, let's say, 15. Let's play. It scatters them around a bit. And let's change this to be higher. So you'll notice they kind of scatter around a bit more. And you can do this thing called swing. Let's change this from random to smooth. Turn the swing to 100. And then let's play. It'll be a more smooth. Kind of looks like wind, but you change some of the settings around. Get some cool effects. So yeah, I'll turn this off for now. And we'll move on. Turn down to 0. And let's move on. Next we have rotation. Alright, so here we have rotation. So again, unlike orientation, the rotation speed actually changes where the particle will go. Let's change that to 20. Over time it should rotate. You see, and it kind of changes. Oh no, it kind of changes. You can also add some speed to it, extra speed. So here we have rotation, which this would probably be better if we had an image, but it just rotates the image, kind of like orientation. You also have extra speed, which you can add some extra speed, and then the rotation strings, not string, swing. So we change this to 50, change it to random, and then let's turn up the swing to 90. Let's say 90. Kind of rotates like that. And it's really cool. This might be a little hard to tell. Probably gonna turn off the trail. Turn that to 0. And that looks a bit better. Kind of looks like that looks a bit better. So let's go back to animation and then turn this all off. And next, let's go to opacity. This will basically tell you how transparent an image can be. Like normal opacity. You can also do some trailing opacity, kind of like trails. And you can also do fade in and fade out. So I do 5 frames for fade out, and then 5 frames for fade. You know, 5. You also have stuff like opacity, how transparent it is, fade in and fade out. You can change all those frames. I put them at 5 to get this cool effect. And then you can go over the colors. Birth color is basically telling you what color it will be when it is created. So sometimes it'll be Sometimes you can make it to where it's red, and sometimes it's green because this is the gradient and everything in between. So now we also have fading color. This is the same. We can change the intensity. And it'll be maybe not green is the best color. Let's change the yellow. It'll change into a yellow, more yellow hue when it is fading in. Same with fading out. So that's pretty much everything, all the settings you need to know for particles. So now I'll delete this and let's start making some actual effects. Go over to 2D, or I call it 2D, and let's make a layer. So let's make a vector layer just for this tutorial. And let's draw just a simple like little raindrop here. Let's say there's our raindrop. Maybe make it a little bit smaller. We're in rendered view, so it looks like it looks kind of choppy there. And then I'm gonna come down here and change this to a blue, maybe a lighter blue, maybe a little lighter. There we go. And now we have this column. So first thing we want to do is select this line and then press the delete key to delete it, and then right click it, or not right click, left click it, and then right click, insert effects, and then let's go to render, particles, and then particle. And then attach it to the texture and make sure it is actually exposed. Let's do 102 frames. We want 102 frames. And it looks like that. That's not what we want. So that's why we got to change it around a bit. So select your particle and then select the animate tool and let's do this. So first, we want it to come from the sky. You know, rain doesn't really come from the middle of nowhere. So what we won't do is select the corner of the box here and then just make it way bigger. And there, now we have it because we need it, and then we just drag it up here. And now, boom, now it's coming down. So over here to source. This is all good. We'll keep this the same. With birth parameters, we're gonna go to speed. And just put that around 100 was good when I tried it. 100 is a good amount. Let's try this now. Yeah, that's nice. And that would be a good speed and good old rain. You're already done if you want this specific effect, but I want a different effect with the rain. So I'm gonna go to speed angle and change this here to a 45-degree angle. So it kind of comes from the top right, or top, not top right, top left, and goes this way, kind of diagonal. And then we're gonna go by orientation and change this not to positive 45, but negative 45. So it looks like that. And we're also going to come over here, change this also to negative 45. So we don't get this effect of some lines are straight and some lines are crooked. So negative 45, click off, and now we have the rain. You might also want to make this a bit bigger, get more rain. And now to make this complete, you come on by size and change it to 40. And there we go. It might want to change the birth rate to 15. It's really small. And there we go. Now we have rain. Some really nice rain. We can do some awesome stuff with this. So I'm going to make one more effect. And this is, I'm going to go ahead and delete all this. This is a star kind of particle system, showing how you can use the particle system to just have still images. So I'm going to come over here by 2D, and then make sure I go by frame 1. First thing you want to do is click on the geometry tool. Make sure it's on rectangle up here. Just draw it all around the screen. Probably turn off preview for this for a bit. And then fill it. So now it's a black screen. Now let's go to a new vector layer. This is a raster. This is Toonz raster layer. And change this to a white. And then let's just place a dot. And there we go. That's going to be a particle. So let's go to effects. Now we don't need to worry about this. We can just move this down here. Let's stretch this out. Again, you gotta delete the line and then add effects. We can do add effects instead of insert. Go all the way down to render particles and particles, and then attach it to the texture. And make sure the particle is above the this column of black screen. So now we have that, and also make sure both of these you can hold shift and select both of these keyframes and then extend them out at the same time. And ensure we're on preview as well. And now we'll have that. So that's not what we want. So I want it to be all around the screen. So I'm going to extend this out. Not all over the screen. And this is going to be similar to that effect I did for a test animation, probably shown on the screen here. So you can kind of simulate that effect. So now we have that here. That's good. So a really amazing thing about this is we have this space, this line in between the column or the layer and the particle system. So what we can do is we can insert an effect in between them, and we can insert an effect in between this and the actual scene, which is why I love these nodes so much. So insert effect. This time I want to go by light and add something called a bloom, which does this. And this doesn't look that good, so we're gonna go click on bloom and change and make sure alpha rendering is on. That's very important. So that looks way better. And then just change the size so it doesn't look like that. And then maybe change the gamma. Maybe mess with this a little bit. Change the gamma and maybe raise the gain a bit. It's fine. So yeah, now we have this particle system already. But when we play, look, it spawns a bunch of stars. That's not what we want. We want a flat plane of stars. So first thing we want to do, go by birth parameters and make sure speed is set to 0 because we don't really need speed for stars. And then so now I'm gonna keyframe everything. So if you didn't know, this is diamond right here, which means it's a keyframe, meaning we can animate all these parameters and change them as we wish, and it will tween in between them. So what we can do here is we're going to go to a timing tab. This is mine. Personally, I customized this myself. You're going to need this mostly. You can probably just stay on your effects. You need something called the graph editor, which panels come over here to function editor. So it's called function editor. And you can change it between this X sheet view and this graph. I personally prefer the graph, but you can do the X sheet view if you want to. And you can dock this wherever you want. I'm going to do my timing tab, but you can always do that if you want to. So make sure your particles is selected. And what we want to animate here to get that effect is the birth rate. So click on it and add a keyframe. Same thing here, come over here, and in order to animate what we want to animate, we click on birth rate here. Now we can animate the birth rate. So we want it to start with 0 at first. That's what I want to start with. And then on frame 2, I'm going to add another keyframe by clicking it down here. And let's change this to 5. Get a little extra thing. And then what will this do is over time, let's make this is frame like this. It will over time make particles. So we'll add another keyframe where we want it to stop generating particles. So right here. So now we can add a set key. And then let's go to the next frame. Set another key, but this time we want it to be 0. So you click on the keyframe, click down here, or wherever your FX settings are, click 0, and there we go. Now it's 0. Now it'll stop generating particles. And there we go. Now it's still. So we have this effect right here. You can always change it however you want. And yeah. Also, what else we can do? We can go back timing and then make sure go to buy seeds. So if you ever play Minecraft or anything really with on the fly generation, there are these things called seeds which change how it's generated. And you can change the number here to get a new generation. So if you don't like how one looks, you can mess around with the seeds, put in random numbers, see what you like. I like it on 0. Let's see what 0 looks like. 1. Let's keep it on 1. So yeah, here we go. That is our effect, and that is how you use the particle system in Tahoma2d. Thanks for watching.